Hi, everyone. Welcome to the CEO Speaker Series. I'm Caden Vittorini, the CEO and founder of VitFactor, your host. And today we're joined by Paul Thomas, who is the CEO of Lessons from the Climb. He is the director of the Northern Arizona Center for Non-for-Profit Entrepreneurship and serves as an assistant professor of practice and executive in residence at the W.A. Frank College of Business at Northern Arizona University. With more than 30 years of experience as a serial CEO and president, he has led over a dozen companies, including public venture-backed and international startups across multiple industries and continents. His work now focuses on mentoring students and strengthening the non-for-profit sector through education and community engagement. He's also the author of the Serial CEO, Lessons from the Climb, a leadership memoir that offers real-world insights into decision-making, team building, and creating positive organizational culture. Passionate about empowering future leaders, Paul continues to bridge the gap between academic learning and practical leadership through his roles in teaching, authorship, and non-for-profit development. In this series, Paul is all about asking leaders what they wish they knew when they were in college. So let's dive right into it. So let's start with your path from student to CEO. Tell us a little bit about that. Maybe your first job, some major career decisions, and just overall leadership milestones.
Sure. And thanks for having me. Growing up, I had a love of the outdoors, was real involved in the Boy Scouts, and so decided once I went to college that I wanted to study forestry. And went to college, got to my junior year studying forestry, and decided that what I really enjoyed about studying forestry was the business side of it, the finance, the everything involved from business. I also grew up in a really poor family and realized if I stayed in forestry, I was probably going to be poor my whole life. So my junior year changed to a finance major and graduated. It took me longer to graduate. I graduated when I was 23 and went right into banking.
Mhm.
And from banking, went into the tech space. By 29, I had my first general manager job. And then at 37, I was hired as a CEO of of a public technology company.
Mhm.
Um, and then for almost 20 years, served as a serial CEO in tech companies. Um, and then when I was 57, decided that it was time to give back. And that's when I started teaching at Northern Arizona University. They had started a program called Executive in Resident, where they wanted executives to come and teach from an experience standpoint. And the university had big impact on me as a student. So that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
But um, I think the key things I learned were that you know no matter what you're studying, sometimes it makes sense to shift, and
Mhm.
it was a good decision to make the shift, and
Yep.
um, so that's the quick down and dirty.
Yeah, no, you found your passion. I love that you realized, like, hey, you were interested in the business side of things, and you moved into banking, and have been in many different industries. Excuse me. So, thinking back, Paul, to when you were a college student, what's a myth about success that you believed, and what was that actual reality?
Yeah, and I think part of this was one because it was a long time ago, but part of it was coming from a really poor family. I sort of looked at it and said success in college is about graduating as quick as I can, so getting my degree, and then making as much money as I can. So it was about that it was a destination. Get here, get my degree, and then once I have my degree, make crazy amounts of money. And
Hmm.
so uh, that was I think that was the myth. When
Hmm.
in reality, um, and in some ways it's taken me now to understand this. It's not about the destination. It's about what do you do during those 4 years. It's not the degree. It's, are you active on campus? Are you active in the community? Do you network? Do you do internships? Do you work? Um, do you belong to organizations?
Yeah.
And then it's not about the money. It's about what impact do you make once then you are done with that degree, and
Yeah.
impact in the way of somebody else's life or your family or an organization. So I learned it's not about money and that it's not about a destination.
Yeah, it's about the impact, right? So, you've had a lot of experience, impacting many other people and now, doing your non-for-profit stuff. That's awesome to hear. So, where you're at today, if you could go back and have a one-on-one conversation with your college self, what's one thing you would tell him?
It would be this idea of um, and it's probably an odd comparison, but um, when you go on a cruise, like last summer, I went on a cruise. We left from Athens, Greece, and my wife and I went to Venice.
Hmm.
When you tell people about the cruise, they don't say, "Oh, how was the destination?" What they ask is, "What did you do during that cruise?" They're interested in, where did you stop? What did you do on the ship? It's not about getting from Athens to Venice. And so the same thing, I wish somebody had said, listen, nobody's going to ask you about your degree. They're going to say, what did you do during those 4 years? Did you
Yeah.
did you do internships? Did you work? Did you belong to clubs? Did you do something in the community? So to really understand, it's not about the degree. It's about that journey that you take during the time you're in college.
That's so good, right? It's the journey you're creating for yourself, the experience and stuff like that as a college student, but even after, So thinking back, you graduated, you went right into banking. What's one major obstacle that you faced earlier in your career, and how did you overcome that?
Um, so obviously, and everybody would tell you that there are lots of obstacles. I think one of the ones that really stands out to me. So at 37, I was given my first CEO job, um, and this was my second CEO job that I was hired into. 6 weeks after being hired as the CEO, the founders of the company went to the board and said, "We hired the wrong guy
Mm,
and we want to fire him." So I had moved my family to San Francisco, had gone into this company that I was preparing to take public, huge international company. And all of a sudden, you get this call that from the chairman of the board saying, "Hey, the founders just called us and they want to fire you." Um,
wow.
that's a huge blow and a huge obstacle.
Yeah, I mean, you moved your family out to San Francisco, and I'm sure you were obviously very thankful and excited for this opportunity. And then you get that call. So, I couldn't imagine how you felt, Paul. So, what helped you keep going through that tough time? And like, how did your mindset shift in that moment?
So, and this is another lesson that I've learned. It's so important to have mentors, and it's so important to have relationships and people that you can look to and count on. So it was interesting as I was interviewing for this second job, a mentor of mine said, "Hey, things are a little weird based on what you're telling me with these founders. Um, so do me a favor if you take this job, ask the chairman of the board if push comes to shove, who can fire who? Can the founders
Mhm.
fire you or can you fire the founders?"
Yeah,
And so I did that. Before I accepted the job, I asked the chairman of the board, who's running this thing and who can fire who?
yeah,
And the chairman said, "Oh no, we're bringing you in to run this company. It's your show." So to hear that call at first, your stomach just kind of sinks. But then the chairman said to me, "But we have your back, and it's exactly what you had feared. I didn't think it was going to happen, but it did, and so we have your back, and we're going to take care of you." So I look at
mm,
that and say, if it wasn't for the mentors that I had that looked out for me, that gave me that warning, who knows what would have happened. Um,
yeah,
but then it continued to be an obstacle because I still had to deal with those founders. And
yeah.
but um, that's all part of the job, I guess.
Right. And I always say things happen for a reason. So maybe you left that job and it just didn't work out the way you want to for you to move on to something bigger and better, right? So was
Yeah.
there a specific moment or decision that kind of dramatically changed your career path?
I think so. I really look at my career as been as a serial CEO. And
Hmm.
the odd thing about a CEO or a president's job, it's not like any other thing. It's like when I learned to fly, once you have so many hours of training and once you pass certain tests, you become a pilot and then you get to fly.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of other jobs will say once you've done this job for so long, you get to move up to this next position. CEO jobs don't work that way. There is no, oh, if you've done this, now you become a CEO.
Right.
So somebody has to take a chance on you. And um, that is the turning point for me. There was an opportunity that somebody approached me that I had worked with before and said, listen, I need a president that will transition to the CEO, and I think you're ready.
Hmm.
And I'd like you to interview with the board. And so it was the fact that somebody, an old mentor, took a chance and said, I think you're ready, and we want to take a chance on you.
That's awesome. Yeah, mentorship is everything, and building your network to be able to find that correct mentor for you is very, very valuable. So, being a college student in the past, and college students today, times are different, right? So, what do you believe? I'm sure you know some college students. The biggest challenge that students face today, being in college right now. What do you think that challenge might be?
Yeah, and so I have, in addition to the other things, I teach classes at the university, and
Yeah.
I've done it over the last 12 years, and I don't know, I've had several thousand students, and I, I think probably the biggest challenge that I hear from students is getting, being prepared and finding a role in the real world.
Yeah.
And um, it's uh, there's that, one, everybody has a degree,
Hmm.
um, and I think sometimes people go into it thinking as long as I get a degree I'll get a job. And what I try to explain to everybody, it gets back to that earlier comment, this idea that did
Yeah.
you did you make a journey out of this? Because nobody in an interview is going to say, tell me about your degree. They're going to say, what did you do during your time in college? And
Right.
so I found that a lot of times there were just some basic skills that, whether it's problem solving skills or whether it's networking skills, um, even something as simple as writing a cover letter. There's just some things that students aren't learning. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's this transitioning and finding a role in the real world that's been is a challenge today for students. And the whole
How-
COVID thing didn't help.
Right.
So
Yeah, exactly. The pandemic didn't help at all. And I was going to ask you, what is your advice for navigating that challenge? But kind of what I'm hearing is just putting yourself out there, right? Growing your network, taking advantage of opportunities, getting your experience going, building up your resume, right? Any other challenge, or excuse me, any other advice that you have for navigating that challenge of, having a tough time finding the job that they're looking for?
yeah, when I first started teaching, I taught freshmen.
Okay.
And so I had a list of 10 things. And I said, listen, I was in your shoes. I was on this campus
Yeah.
as a freshman. And I wish these are the 10 things somebody had told me because these are the things that will prepare you and help you get a job because that's why you're going to school. And so it was simple things. It was like create a LinkedIn profile. And I remember some students say, well, we don't use LinkedIn, we use Facebook or we use Twitter. And I said, well, you may use that, but in corporate America, we tend to look to LinkedIn.
Right.
Um, I talk about the importance of doing a study abroad. It doesn't matter whether it's a whole semester or a 2 week study abroad. Show that you have experienced life outside of our own country.
Mm.
I talked about the importance of being engaged in the community. I talk about being engaged in organizations. If you're a business major, don't just belong to business clubs. The importance of networking. And so what I tried to do is say, do these things over the next 4 years. Because if you get to your senior year and you come to me and you go, I don't have a job, but you haven't done some of this basic things, it's going to be really tough.
Yeah.
So I try to just give them the perspective from the real world, and that was why the dean created the program that he did to bring in executives to try to teach from a practitioner standpoint.
Yeah. Right. And that's why, we're bringing in people like you, Paul, to hear your insight and,
Yeah.
how to help students navigate challenges that they may be facing. So we're going to kind of switch directions here and we're going to do a pick a question game. So what I'm going to do is have you pick a number 1 through 5, and you won't know the question until you choose that number. Okay. So pick a number 1 through 5, and I'll let you know what question you selected.
I'll go with 5.
What's your workplace superpower?
I think it's communication. I've always found that if you just have an open door, always make an assumption that everybody knows everything that you say or do.
Mhm.
Always be transparent. Um, and that's been the thing that I think either people that work for me or my boards have said is that uh, I'm a constant communicator.
Yeah, that's awesome. Communication is, I believe, probably the most valuable skill, I would say. Working with a lot of kids in our youth going into middle and high schools, that's a skill that's missing because of technology and social media. And like you said earlier, that pandemic, right? It's decreasing their communication skills where they don't know how to necessarily start, expand, and end a conversation successfully, right? Body language and how to even just excel in an interview when you walk in, during, and after. So yeah, great answer. So now we're going to do a lightning round where I'm going to ask you 6 questions that I want you to answer, in 10 to 20 seconds, okay?
All right. Okay.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Awesome. Your favorite college class?
Business law.
Your go-to coffee order?
White chocolate mocha with non-fat milk, but keep the whipped cream.
There we go. Your best book or podcast recommendation?
Um, it would have to be Serial CEO: Lessons from the Climb, the book that
Okay.
I wrote last year.
Awesome. I'll have to check it out. Your best productivity hack?
I'm an old school guy, so I do lists.
Okay.
Um, I write out lists, and so every morning when I start off, I put together a list, and then I rank them in the order to get them done.
Yep. I'm right there with you. I do the same thing. Your dream mentor, he or she could be dead or alive.
Walt Disney. I um I just think the world of what Walt Disney did, the obstacles that he ran into, and
Yeah.
then all these years after his death, the empire, the enterprise that is the result of his vision.
Yep. Exactly right. Good choice. And what's something that you do every day that helps you stay grounded?
Um, I think I just try to recognize uh, people for what they do or what they contribute. Um, uh, Try to just say something positive to the people around me for what they do. I think so much goes unappreciated, and thanking somebody, a short little email, I think goes a long way with people.
Yeah, that's a great choice. I haven't heard that one yet. It's good. Last couple questions here, Paul. What are 3 traits, habits, or skills that helped you go from a student to a successful CEO?
I think the first one I would say is um, being curious and always questioning things. And I tell my students this: when you go to interviews, ask great questions, not
Mhm.
because not for the sake of questions, but because you truly are curious. So be curious about things and always ask. Um, the second I would say is it's probably a combination of drive. So growing up poor. makes you not want to be poor. But at the same time, I think there's been a lot of luck that has, so it's this combination of drive and luck. Um, and then the third one I would say is networking or finding mentors. It's anybody that thinks they can do everything on their own is fooling themselves. And so it's really important to have a good network and great mentors.
hmm Awesome. Great three. And what's one piece of advice that you have for students who want to lead or become even more of a leader?
Um, and it's probably not a great answer, but it's what I teach in management to my students. I don't believe that you can be a good leader or a good manager if you truly don't care about other people. Um,
Mm,
if you're not willing to put other people ahead of you, if you're not willing to um, have a team where people are far more talented than you are, it's going to be really tough. But um, truly have to care about other people and growing other people. If you're a person who's just going to try to do it on your own, you're going to fail. And um, I think the other thing is too, you have to truly understand what your strengths are, and then try to find people around you who help offset the things that you can't do.
yeah. Yeah. So coming together and growing your circle, right? Building your network. That's a great answer. So great stuff today. There was so much insight. I learned so much from you as well. And I'm sure whoever is watching this will too. But if students can only remember 10 seconds from this interview, what should it be?
It's got to be this idea that don't look at college as a destination. I just got to get here and I just got to get to my degree. Make the
Yeah.
most of those 4 years. Do as much as you can. Don't don't focus, in my opinion, don't focus on the GPA and the degree. Focus on all the things that you can do during that 4 years.
I love that. It's so true. And, I wish I knew that just a few years ago because I just graduated in this past semester. So, thanks so much for joining us, Paul. And
Yeah.
thanks to everyone who's watching. If something resonated with you today, share it with a friend or mentor. These conversations are meant to inspire action and change. And we'll see you next time on the CEO Speaker Series. Thank you again, Paul.
Thank